The drop pods screamed through the upper atmosphere, burning white tails across Trinacria's twilight sky. Inside Pod 14, Jackson Reeve leaned back, legs braced against the frame, chewing on a strip of dehydrated mango. The aliens across from him weren't handling the turbulence well. The six-limbed Zilorian to his right hissed a curse as its translator earpiece sparked. The Velnari twins clutched one another, whispering nervously in clicks. Jack took another bite and muttered, "First time camping?" The landing wasn't smooth. The pod jolted as it hit soil, bounced, and then embedded itself halfway into the slope of a thick, mossy hill. The door hissed open. Moist air rushed in, rich, earthy, and humid. A crimson-leaved canopy hung overhead, thick vines dangling like ropes. Jack jumped down and landed with a crunch. The forest around him pulsed with alien life. Trees groaned faintly. Bioluminescent insects blinked from under wide ferns. Distantly, something howled. Jack smiled. "All right, nature," he whispered. "Show me your worst." Behind him, Virene Thalsak emerged stiffly, clutching her now inert scanner. Her silver uniform bore the Velari crest, sleek, efficient, and now coated in dirt. She wrinkled her nose. "Primitive terrain. Toxic humidity. I can feel bacteria breeding on my skin." Jack shrugged and scanned the clearing. "Smells like home." Virene's gaze narrowed. "You mean Earth? The Death World?" "That's the one." One by one, the rest of the cadets stumbled out of their pods, all in various states of panic. Some tried activating holomaps. Others tapped helplessly at comms. Nothing worked. A blue-skinned alien shrieked, "My nanofabricator won't sync!" Jack turned, examining the device. Battery fried. "EMP sweep, standard protocol in these trials. You really thought they'd let you 3D print your way through survival?" The group looked at him like he'd suggested eating soil. Virene stepped forward. "This is a sabotage. We were told tools would function." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You read the briefing, right? Section 3B, technological systems may be neutralized to simulate field failures. This is a test of adaptability, not privilege." Her jaw tightened. "We're scientists, not primitive scouts." He looked around. "No scouts here either. Just a bunch of spoiled cadets waiting for a battery charge." Then he walked to the base of a massive tree, its trunk coiled in vines, branches sprawling like a skeletal cathedral. He knocked on it, nodded, and pulled out a compact multi-tool from his belt. "What are you doing?" Virene asked. "Building my house," Jack said, already cutting away bark. "Storm's coming tonight. You'll want elevation and a roof." Some laughed. A furry Arctari muttered, "A treehouse? He's building a treehouse." Jack didn't respond. He began climbing. At 6 meters up, he anchored a cord and slid down. "This one's good. Big branches, stable center, fungus-free." Virene crossed her arms. "This isn't a popularity contest. The instructors will observe leadership, resource allocation, and technological improvisation." Jack pointed at her datapad. "Your tech's dead. All you've got is brains and muscle. I suggest using both." He started collecting fallen branches, separating them by length and width. His movements were smooth, efficient. It wasn't arrogance. It was practice. Nearby, the Velnari twins argued about whether to camp on the ground or under rock ledges. Someone tried digging a pit. Another tried shouting for drones. Jack, meanwhile, worked. An hour passed. His treehouse began to take shape, a simple triangle frame reinforced by lash vines and wide fern fronds layered for roofing. It was crude, but functional. The aliens started noticing. One by one, they drifted closer. A reptilian Malveran cadet approached and asked, "How did you tie that knot?" "Figure-8 loop. Holds tight under strain. Want to learn?" The Malveran nodded. Jack handed over cord and demonstrated. Virene stood apart, arms crossed. She was trying to repair her scanner, pulling components apart with surgical precision. Nothing sparked. No screen lit up. She watched as 2 more cadets joined Jack, then 3 more. When night approached, clouds rolled in fast. The air thickened. Jack finished reinforcing the shelter and lit a fire using a sparkstone and dry moss. Smoke curled upward, pushing back biting insects. Virene sat beneath a tree, wet, cold, alone. Jack looked down at her. Still planning to outcode the rain? She didn't look up. I'll adapt. A silence fell. Then, quietly, she rose and walked toward the tree. She stopped under the ladder. Jack stared down. You coming up? I'll observe your structure. Sure. Just watch the 3rd rung, it's a little loose. She climbed cautiously and settled inside. The others shuffled in. 11 beings, from 7 species, sharing space in a lopsided, human-made shelter. No words. Just breath, wind, and crackling fire. Outside, the forest roared with unseen life. Inside, they were dry. Warm. Together. Virene broke the silence. You memorized the terrain maps? No, Jack said. I just read the trees. She hesitated. You planned this. From the beginning. I expected tech to fail. Earth doesn't ask permission. You just survive. Virene looked out into the dark. We're not trained for chaos. Jack exhaled, watching embers drift skyward. Then it's going to be a long week. Lightning flashed in the distance. A moment later, thunder cracked through the jungle. Jack leaned back and closed his eyes. Hope you like storms. Behind him, Virene's datapad beeped once, then died again. She didn't bother picking it up. The morning came cloaked in fog. Thin wisps of vapor curled through the canopy, and dew clung to every leaf like the jungle had exhaled overnight. Jack Reeves sat cross-legged at the edge of the treehouse, sharpening a makeshift spear with a stone. Below, the forest whispered, low growls, flutters, chirps that weren't quite birds. The alien cadets stirred around him. Groggy, cramped, but alive. Any casualties? Jack asked without looking up. Only pride, muttered Cal, the reptilian Malverin, rubbing his neck. A Nualian cadet winced as he stood. My translator shorted during the night. I dreamt in 12 languages. Virene sat apart from the group again, perched against a tree limb, datapad now functioning only as a mirror, its screen dark, but reflective. Her hair was tied back with woven grass. Functional. Jack noticed. He finished the spear and handed it to Cal. If you see anything that slithers or sniffs, don't wait. Cal accepted it with a nod. This is real for you, isn't it? Jack smiled faintly. It always has been. The morning routine began. Jack delegated quietly. Collect moss for bedding, vines for reinforcement, edible roots. A few cadets returned with strange fruits. Jack cut them open, sniffed, tapped the flesh, then shook his head. Too acidic. Burns the gut. Looks sweet, said a fuzzy-jawed cadet, already chewing. Seconds later, he spat violently over the edge. Alien kale, Jack said, grinning. Told you. They laughed. The tension eased. Virene observed all this from above, eyes sharp, analytical. Finally, she spoke. You assign tasks without assuming authority. Jack turned. I'm not leading. I'm surviving. They're choosing to help. You've created a functioning system. That is, unorthodox. Funny. I thought it was obvious. She looked down at her datapad, now dismantled in her lap. My equipment is beyond repair. Even if I had power, the signal is blocked by something planetary. Jack leaned on his knee. You're finally letting go? Adapting. Not surrendering. He nodded. Fair. Midday brought heat. Dense, wet, and suffocating. The group moved slower. Jack sent a few to find water. He followed a moss-covered ridge and discovered a shallow spring feeding a tiny stream. He cupped the water, sniffed, then tasted. Clean. Jack returned to find the treehouse expanded, an extra platform stretched between 2 limbs. Crude, uneven, but solid. The Malverin had done it with the twins. Not bad, Jack said. Hope you charged rent. Virene descended from the canopy with a small woven net. I made this. Jack examined it. Fiber weave? Tight pull dual anchor. That's good. She hesitated. You expected me to fail? I didn't expect anything. That's what gets you killed. They locked eyes for a second too long. Then Cal shouted from the lower trail. Tracks? Jack slid down the rope and joined him. Wide claw marks scarred the mud. Three-toed. Deep impressions. Predator sign. Cal exhaled sharply. It's circled. Yeah, Jack muttered. We were watched last night. Virene landed beside them, her expression pale. What kind of creature? Simulated apex predator. Every test planet gets one. They're not lethal, but they don't tell you that when it's running at your throat. She frowned. Why? Stress test. Panic is the final exam. Jack knelt, traced the tracks with a fingertip. It was close. Didn't strike. Either curious or assessing. Virene stepped back. We're not ready. We will be. By dusk, Jack had rigged perimeter traps, trip vines connected to hollowed pods filled with sharpened pebbles. Alarms more than weapons. He walked the others through the process, correcting mistakes without judgment. The forest grew louder as light faded. They gathered around the fire. The flames danced in alien eyes, reflecting unease, fatigue, and something new, trust. Earth's not gentle, Jack began, his voice low. You don't get second chances. You don't wait for rescue. You make shelter, you find food, and you never rely on batteries. Cal tilted his head. So humans don't panic? We do. But we move through it. You panic too long, something eats you. Virene leaned forward. Your planet kills the weak? Jack shrugged. It teaches the strong fast. Silence. Then a laugh. Dry and brittle. It was Virene. I thought your people were violent by choice. Now I see, your planet forged it into you. Jack poked the fire. We didn't come from safety. We came from claw marks and lightning strikes. The sky growled again. Another storm. As the wind rose, Virene spoke quietly. If it comes tonight, what do we do? Jack looked out into the dark. We don't run. We wait. Let it show itself. And if it climbs? We make it regret that. Raindrops hit the leaves in soft succession. Jack stood and checked the traps one last time. Virene followed him. You trust us now? I trust that you're scared enough to listen. She didn't respond immediately. I used to believe species like yours were anomalies. Dangerous outliers. Now I wonder if we're the outliers, dependent, delicate. Jack offered her a small torch. Here. Night gets darker than you think. She took it. As the storm broke, wind lashed the treetops. Lightning pulsed above. Below, the traps waited, silent, coiled. Jack sat at the entrance of the shelter, blade in hand. They were still dry. Still alive. But something moved in the distance. Heavy. Intentional. Virene stared into the dark. Jack didn't flinch. Tomorrow, he said, we build higher walls. The scream tore through the forest just before dawn. Not the cry of an animal. It was sharp, sentient, and terrified. Jack was already moving. He swung down the vine ladder barefoot, snatching his spear from where it leaned against the post. Virene followed a breath behind, eyes wide but hands steady. They reached the trail where the scream had come from. Cal was there, unharmed but shaken. His arm trembled as he pointed toward a patch of churned earth. A section of the outer traps was destroyed. Splintered branches. Scattered stones. Deep claw marks in the soil. It had been there. Close. And it hadn't triggered a single alarm until it wanted to. Where's Ryle? Jack asked. No one answered. Then a soft, garbled call echoed from the underbrush. Jack didn't wait. He pushed through the ferns, crouched low, and found Ryle, the youngest cadet, a feathered Avixie, curled behind a root, her breathing rapid. Her ankle was gashed. Not bleeding badly, but enough to make her useless if they had to run. She looked up at him with wide amber eyes. It didn't touch me. It just looked. Jack lifted her carefully, nodding toward Virene, who had already begun wrapping a vine tourniquet. What kind of predator hesitates? Virene asked. Jack's jaw tightened. One that thinks. They returned to the shelter under a tense silence. By mid-morning, clouds had thinned but the tension remained. The cadets now moved like a unit, gathering materials, reinforcing the treehouse, fixing traps. Virene ran calculations in her head, scribbling with charcoal on bark slates. This thing is probing, she said. It learns. It's waiting for us to be exposed. Jack agreed. It doesn't want to kill. It wants collapse. Panic. Scattering. And it's working. Jack stepped up to the fire, eyes sweeping the group. We've got one shot. We fight smart. No tech. Just pressure points, traps, and timing. One of the twins looked up. You mean we bait it? Jack nodded. We bait it. He spent the afternoon assigning positions. Cal and Virene helped rig new traps, a mix of pitfall nets, loose logs, and low-trip wires leading into blind zones. Jack took down a half-dead tree and repurposed the trunk into a counterweight battering ram. At sunset, they smeared the shelter perimeter with crushed fruit and dried blood from a squirrel-like creature Jack had caught. The scent would draw it. Then they waited. The jungle held its breath. The fire was doused. Shadows thickened. Virene crouched beside Jack in the treehouse watchpoint. Her fingers gripped a sharpened stake. Explain this again? She whispered. We fake weakness. We let it enter. Then we hit it from all sides, blind, loud, fast. You're sure it won't kill? No. But it's not supposed to. And I've survived worse. That wasn't a comfort. But she nodded. The first sign was silence. The forest always hummed. Clicks, howls, pulses. But now? Nothing. Then came the thud. Deliberate. Heavy. One step. Then another. It came into view, a hulking creature, fur bristling with wet, black fibers, eyes glowing faintly violet in the dark. It was built like a predator but moved like a tactician, slow, unhurried, intelligent. It crossed the first trap zone. Nothing triggered. Then it stopped. Sniffed. Turned straight toward the treehouse. Jack whispered, Now. Cal threw the first decoy, a spark shell made from a flash crystal and coiled bark. It burst into light. The creature recoiled. At that instant, the tripvine snapped. Branches fell. Nets flew. But it was fast. Too fast. It dodged a log trap, leapt over the pit, and sprinted toward the base of the treehouse. Its claws sank into the trunk. It began to climb. Virene gripped Jack's arm. It's not working! Jack shouted down. Brace the supports! The twins pulled ropes, anchoring the base as the creature rose higher. Jack lit the emergency flare, built from phosphor powder, wrapped in cloth. As the beast's claws scraped into the platform edge, Jack threw it. White light exploded. The creature reeled, howling, its eyes blinded. Virene lunged with the stake, stabbing at the face. It screeched, lost balance, and Jack kicked its chest. The thing fell, crashing through limbs, slamming into the forest floor. It didn't move. Silence returned. They climbed down together. Cal poked it with his spear. Unconscious. Maybe tranquilized by the system. I think it's done. Jack bent, inspected the neck. No blood. Just stun. Training grade. But damn real enough. He turned to the others. We held. We didn't run. That's what matters. Virene looked at the fallen creature, then at Jack. You beat it, with wood and fire. No. We beat it. With timing. With instinct. She didn't smile. But she didn't look away. The next morning, a shuttle broke through the clouds. White, sleek, adorned with Concord emblems. The cadets stood together, bruised, muddy, proud. An instructor drone descended first, scanning the area. Then a tall Concord officer followed. "Cadet assessment complete," she said. "Incident logs reviewed. Treehouse defense protocol acknowledged. Final rank, exemplary." Virene stepped forward. "We collaborated. Without rank. Without technology." Jack didn't speak. The officer faced him. "Cadet Reeve, your report will be reviewed by Earth's delegation. You've reshaped expectations." Jack looked around, the woven shelter, the spears, the footprints. The unity. "Didn't do it to impress," he said. "Just didn't want anyone left behind." As the cadets boarded the shuttle, Virene paused beside him. "Your people aren't monsters," she said quietly. "Just forged by different fire." Jack met her eyes. "And yours will burn just fine. Once they learn to let go." She nodded. The ramp closed. As the shuttle rose, Jack looked back once, at the crude little shelter in the trees. Not much. Just enough to survive. The debrief room aboard the Concorde cruiser shimmered with sterile efficiency. Glass walls, silver accents, and the low hum of grav stabilizers underfoot. It felt the universe away from the wilds of Trinacria. But Jackson Reeves still had dirt under his nails. He sat alone at the end of a curved bench, arms folded, posture relaxed but alert. Across from him sat three representatives, a Glan observer with iridescent scales, a human delegate from Earth, and a tall Valari adjudicator, Virene's mother, if the nameplate meant anything. The holographic table flickered between images, the treehouse, the wounded predator, heat signatures of the cadets huddled together. "Explain your decision," the Valari said without greeting. Her voice was ice wrapped in protocol. Jack glanced at the image. "They were panicking. I gave them a reason not to. You assumed command. I adapted." The Glan leaned in. "And your intention? Impress? Dominate? Elevate?" Jack exhaled. "Survive." The human rep, a weathered woman with storm-gray eyes, smiled faintly. "Your actions don't match the expectations we set. We trained you in command structure, in deference. You ignored that. I didn't see a chain of command in the mud. I saw cold, frightened cadets with dead equipment. We either worked together or we broke." The Valari's brow twitched. "Your behavior, calculated or instinctual?" "Both. Earth doesn't let you choose. You learn fast or die young." A pause. The Glan touched the console. The Predator's approach replayed in red silhouettes. "You provoked the Apex unit," it said. "False," Jack answered. "We prepared for it. Provocation was never the goal, resilience was." The human leaned forward. "They're calling it the Treehouse Protocol. Several species want it analyzed as an alternative survival model. Field adaptability. Cross-cultural integration under extreme pressure." Jack tilted his head. "So, I passed?" "More than passed," she said. "You embarrass several institutions." The Valari's lips tightened. "Permission to speak plainly?" Jack asked. "Granted," the Glan replied. "You want humanity to behave like a tame dog. Useful but leashed. You're afraid of what we might be if we're not. But we're not here to conquer, we're here to matter." The Valari stood. "That remains to be seen." She left without further comment. Hours later, Jack stood at the ship's observation deck. Through the wide glass, the green crescent of Trinacria hung below, clouds swirling over its endless jungles. Footsteps behind him. He didn't turn. "I expected a dressing down," he said. Virene's voice was softer than usual. "You got one. You also got a recommendation for command training." He turned now. She was in fresh uniform, but the forest still clung to her, scar on her wrist, sunmark on her neck. "I thought I made everyone uncomfortable," Jack said. "You did," she replied. "And then you made them uncomfortable with how much they learned from you." She stepped beside him, looking out. "The others speak of you like a story now. The human who builds in chaos. It's become a joke, a compliment, and a caution all at once. Jack chuckled. That's about right. She folded her arms. When I first saw your file, I assumed you were a brute with a lucky education. Now I know better. He raised an eyebrow. So you like me now? I respect you, she said simply. Affection may come later. Jack laughed. I'll take that. Virene turned to leave, then hesitated. They asked me to recommend cadets for joint leadership initiatives. I named you. He blinked. Seriously? You lead without titles. That's rare. And dangerous. But sometimes necessary. She walked off. Jack stared out again. Below, the treehouse was just a pinpoint in the endless forest. A brief spark of intention in the middle of a testing ground. It had been enough. 2 days later, back on Earth's Orbital Academy, Jack found his name on a new roster. A red stripe had been added to his profile, indicator of field excellence under Concord threat scenarios. He barely noticed it. Because his inbox was full. Messages from alien cadets. Questions. Gratitude. Requests for advice on ropework. Blueprints for off-world shelters. One even sent a doodle of Jack riding the Predator like a battle mount. He grinned. His world had just changed. He sat at his desk, pulled out a piece of old world paper, and began sketching a new treehouse design. Multi-species compatible. Gravity adaptive. Solar-fed fire pit. Why not? The next trial might be harder. And now they knew where to look when things fell apart. Later that night, as Earth rotated into twilight and stars lit up the edges of space, Jack received one final message. From Virene. In future simulations, I vote we start with treehouses. Let's build forward from what worked. Jack smiled, leaned back, and typed one word in reply. Agreed. Then he added, Next time you bring the rope. I'll bring the fire.